Further debate? Further debate? I recognize the member from Guelph.
It's an honour to rise today to speak on Bill 123, the Reserve Parking for Electric Vehicles Act, which I'm co-sponsoring with the MPP from Whitby. I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill because I think, Speaker, you can chew gum and walk at the same time. I can be critical of the government's climate plan and work with them to take a small but critically important step forward to support EV adoption in Ontario. And I think people have voted for us to come here to Queen's Park and put people before party and to get things done for people. And that's what this bill does in an important and small way. I want to thank City Councillor Phil Alt in Guelph, who first approached me at the end of last year and said to me, Mike, we need a bill in Ontario that stops icing, which is having a non-electric vehicle park in an electric vehicle parking spot. And I promised him and others, and I want to proudly say that about half of Guelph City Council, including our mayor, all drive electric vehicles. And I made a commitment to them that I would work on legislation like this. During second reading of this bill, I told a story, and I think it's important to tell that story once again, that just a few weeks ago, I was pulling in to charge my electric vehicle as I was driving back home to Guelph. There's a spot about halfway between Guelph and Toronto that I oftentimes stop to charge. And I took the last charging spot, and a person drove up and they started sort of ranting at me a little bit that Mike, or I didn't say Mike, they didn't know who I was. They started saying to me, like, somebody's got to do something about this. Like, I'm sick and tired of going to charge my electric vehicle and I look on my app and it says the charging station's available, and then I arrive and I'm low on battery power and I can't charge because somebody else is parked in the spot. If you can imagine, for those of you who don't drive an electric vehicle, imagine going to the gas pump and having a whole bunch of cars parked in front of the gas pump and you can't charge your vehicle. And so this bill takes a step in addressing that issue, an important step in addressing that issue, and saying that there's a $125 fine if you're parked in that spot to ensure that it's available for people to be able to park and charge their car. Speaker, we know that electric vehicle adoption is going to be an important development in Ontario in the next decade. Right now, in this province, about 3.5% of drivers drive an electric vehicle. By 2030, estimates are that about half of drivers in Ontario will drive an electric vehicle. And the government's own climate plan anticipates a 3,000% increase in electric vehicle adoption in the province. Now, I'm going to take issue with the fact that the Auditor General pointed out the government doesn't have a plan for that uptake to happen. And I'm hoping that in the spirit of collaboration on this bill, we can encourage them to bring forward some plans for EV adoption in Ontario, because it's going to be critical to meeting our climate obligations. Transportation is the largest source of climate pollution in Ontario. If we don't electrify our transportation system, we're not going to meet our 2030 or our 2050 targets. And so we need to ensure that we not only invest in infrastructure that allows people to walk and cycle and to get around through active transportation, and not only do we need to invest in electrifying and expanding public transit, but we also need to invest in electrifying our personal transportation fleet. So, Speaker, I just want to say that I've had an opportunity to work with a number of advocates in the electric vehicle space. The president of the Electric Vehicle Association, Will Steinwell, came to committee and talked about how important this bill is for electric vehicle drivers across the province, to ensure that they have the trust and the reliability to be able to find a place to charge and know that charging station is available. I also had an opportunity to meet with a representative from Tesla, and I just want to quote what Tesla said about this bill. We recognize the frustration and disappointment that EV drivers can feel when they arrive at a charging station needing to connect to their vehicle, only to find that the stall is occupied by a vehicle that does not require access to charging equipment. We are encouraged that Ontario is taking steps to address this issue. I want to end quote. Speaker, I oftentimes talk about the opportunities that exist in the $26 trillion global clean economy. If Ontario is going to be an economic leader in attracting investment to this province that will help us address the climate crisis and help improve our economy, ensuring that we have the proper supports in place for electrification of transportation is critically important. And so we need to adapt our laws, our policies, and our infrastructure to seize that opportunity. And this is an important step in that direction. But we also need to make sure that we invest in charging infrastructure. I would encourage the government to be looking at tax incentives to support businesses putting in charging infrastructure. I would encourage the government to reverse the removal of charging infrastructure from Metrolink's parking stations and actually start putting charging infrastructure not only in GO parking lots, but all public parking facilities should have charging infrastructure in place. I would encourage the government to look at things like reinstating the rebate program for electric vehicles, or at the very least, take the provincial portion of the HST off of electric vehicle sales. Because for this law to truly be transformative, we need to make sure there are charging infrastructure all across the province, all across our 400 series highways, all across our provincial highways, so vehicle owners not only know that they have a secure place to park or to charge their vehicle, but they actually have a place to charge their vehicle. And I think this is an important part of Ontario sending the message that we are open for business in the clean economy. You know, Speaker, we know that $255 billion will be invested by global automakers in electric and zero-emission vehicles in the next 5 years. And the question is Ontario going to attract that investment? Is Ontario going to lead the electric vehicle transformation that the world is going to experience over the next decade? And so we need an auto strategy that prioritizes electric vehicles. We have the skilled workers. We have the plants. We have the companies that can deliver electric vehicle solutions, and we need to make sure we have policies in place that support that transformation. Speaker, my final minutes, I want to just put on the record for the people watching today and for the people across Ontario that part of the reason people are switching to electric vehicles is not only for environmental reasons, though that's a critically and essential component of it, but people are also doing it for personal economic reasons. We know that you can operate an electric vehicle for 1/5 to 1/10 the cost of a non-electric vehicle. According to the Canadian Automobile Association, Canadians can expect to spend only around $300 a year to fuel their electric vehicle. For some people, that's how much they spend a month to fuel their gasoline-powered vehicle. As a matter of fact, electric vehicles operate at 1/10 the cost of a typical pickup truck driver on gas, and according to Plug and Drive, EV operating costs are 1/5 or less of a typical car. It costs about 25 cents a litre to charge your electric vehicle, and I believe fuel prices, gas prices in Toronto were about $1.17 this past week. So if the government wants to help people save money at the pumps, let's get rid of the pumps and let's have people go electric, because that is the cheapest way to drive in this province. And this bill, I'm proud to say, will help make it easier for people to charge their electric vehicles. Thank you, Speaker.